picture looks different.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Steve,
And I'm Scott.
and together we're Backyard Musings, broadcasting live Apple Valley, People's Republic of California.
And we are talking some interesting science today. Yeah, this is kind of a cool story.
Yeah, we got a
Hopefully,
bunch of. Go
hopefully
ahead.
everybody's heard about this lake that we were talking about. So,
Yeah, we got a bunch of viewers, family, and friends and stuff from Utah around that area. So hopefully they'll find this interesting. For
yeah.
thousands of years, Utah's Great Salt Lake reflected only natural shifts in climate and water flow. But fresh sediment analysis shows that in just 2 centuries, human activity forced the lake into states unseen for millennia. For thousands of years, Utah's Great Salt Lake responded to shifts in climate and water supply, but new research using sediment isotope analysis shows that in just the past 2 centuries, human activity has driven the lake into a chemical state not seen for at least 2,000 years. That would be the savior 2,000 years ago. Would you like to know more?
Yeah, so I didn't even think about this, but this lake is I forget what the term is. It's in this, but it's there's no normally lakes might have something flowing out of it. They got to flow in, they got to flow out. And this lake does
Source.
not apparently.
A
Apparently this
source.
when it flows in and it stays. That's as far as it goes. Which I didn't know that. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. A geoscientist at the University of Utah studied sediments from the lake bed to trace how the lake and its watershed have changed since the time it took its modern form after the immense freshwater Lake Bonneville receded and left behind today's Great Salt Lake. And if you've ever been up to the Salt Lake is huge, but the whole Bonneville area where the salt flats are and the salt mines and stuff, that is gigantic.
Gigantic.
I mean, it is. It's like probably like Great Lake, almost Great Lake sizes, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Bigger.
Oh wow, bigger. Okay. Okay. So according to Bowen's study published on July 22, 2025 in Geophysical Research Letters, sediment records help place today's rapid changes in perspective. These natural archives offer crucial insights into the past behavior of terminal saline lakes, which sustain delicate yet essential ecosystems, and they may also guide future efforts to manage and protect them. So that was the term I was looking for. It's a terminal lake. There's nothing flowing out of it. It stops there. So, okay. I'd never heard that before.
Neither have I. This research helps. See, we're educating ourselves and everyone else.
Oh yeah, believe me.
This research helps fill critical gaps in the lake's geological and hydrological records, coming at a time when the drought depleted level of the terminal body has been hovering near its historic low. Quote, we have all these great observations, so much monitoring, so much information and interest in what's happening today. We also have a legacy of people looking at the huge changes in the lake that happened over tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, Bowen said. What we've been missing is the scale in the middle. That is the time spanning the first arrival of white settlers in Utah, but after Lake Bonneville receded to become the Great Salt Lake.
You know, I just thought of this. Another lake that is, I believe, a terminal lake is Mono Lake, and we've talked about Mono Lake.
Yep.
And it has fresh water flowing into it, just like the Great Salt Lake does. But that lake is saline. It's salty. Okay, by analyzing oxygen and carbon isotopes preserved in lake sediments, the study reconstructs the lake's water and carbon budgets through time. Two distinct human-driven shifts stand out. You want me to read these?
Yeah.
Okay. Mid-19th century, coinciding with Mormon settlement in 1847, irrigation rapidly greened the landscape around the lake, increasing the flow of organic matter into the lake and altering its carbon cycle.
So mid-20th century, construction of the railroad causeway in 1959 disrupted water flow between the lake's north and south arms, which turned Gilbert Bay from a terminal lake to an open one that partially drained into Gunnison Bay, altering the salinity and water balance to values rarely seen in thousands of years. I didn't know there were these bays. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some overhead pictures of the Great Salt Lake, and I've driven across I-80 going westbound from the Salt Lake area to what is the name of that town on the border?
Elko.
Well, Elko in Nevada, but there's a town there right on the border, and I forget what it's called. Anyway, not Weatherton. I don't know. Anyway, that is a long drive of just looking at white. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So the new study examines two sets of sediment cores extracted from the bed of Great Salt Lake, each representing different timescales. The top 10 meters of the first core, wow, drilled in the year 2000 south of Fremont Island, contained sediments washed into the lake up to 8,000 years ago. Okay.
The other samples recovered by the U.S. Geological Survey represent only the upper 30 centimeters of sediments deposited in the last few hundred years.
Okay, quote, the first gives us a look at what's happening for the 8,000 years before the settlers showed up, Bowen said. The second are these shallower cores that allow us to see how the lake changed after the arrival of the settlers.
Bowen subjected these lakebed sediments at varying depths to an analysis that determines isotope ratios of carbon and oxygen, shedding light on the landscape surrounding the lake and the water in the lake at varying points in the past.
Yeah, because before the pioneers got there, the only people that were there were Indians, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they were not doing the kind of stuff that the pioneers did when they first got there. They were migratory groups. So
no industrialization. So I don't think they contributed to any eco thing there. Yeah.
All right, where am I at here? The carbon tells us.
Mm-hmm.
The carbon tells us, and quote, about the geochemistry and about how the carbon cycles through the lake, and that's affected by things like weathering of rocks that bring carbon to the lake and the vegetation in the watershed, which also contributes carbon that dissolves into the water and flows to the lake, he said.
Bowen's analysis documented a sharp change in carbon, indicating profound changes that coincide with the arrival of the Mormon pioneers in the Salt Lake Valley, where they introduced irrigated agriculture to support a rapidly growing community. Quote, we see a big shift in the carbon isotopes, and it shifts from values that are more indicative of rock weathering carbon coming into the lake from dissolving limestone toward more organic sources, more vegetation sources, Bowen said.
The new carbon balance after settlement was unprecedented during the 8,000 years of record following the demise of Lake Bonneville. Next, Bowen's oxygen isotope analysis reconstructed the lake's water balance over time. Quote, essentially, it tells us about the balance of evaporation and water inflow into the lake. As the lake is expanding, the oxygen isotope ratio goes down. As the lake shrinks, it goes up, basically telling us about the rate of change of the lake volume. We see little fluctuations, but nothing major until we get to 1959.
That's the year Union Pacific built a 20-mile causeway to replace a historic rail trestle dividing the lake's north arm, which has no tributaries, from its south arm, also known as Gilbert Bay, which receives inflow from 3 rivers. Water flows through a gap in the causeway into the north arm, now rendering the south arm an open system.
Quote, we changed the hydrology of the lake fundamentally and gave it an outflow. We see that really clearly in the oxygen isotopes, which start behaving in a different way, he said. Counterintuitively, the impact of this change was to make Gilbert Bay waters fresher than they would have been otherwise, buying time to deal with falling lake levels and increasing salinity due to the other causes.
Quote, if we look at the longer time scale, 8,000 years, the lake has mostly been pinned at a high evaporation state. It's been essentially in a shrinking, consolidating state throughout that time, and that only reversed when we put in the causeway. So this is pretty interesting. I mean, I'll bet you Tony will find this really interesting. I'll forward it to him.
Yeah, and, because, they've had issues with drought. Utah, that's an arid desert area anyway. So that lake, they've had issues like we just talked about with it shrinking. And usually when they get a good rain, like they've had some good rain and good snowfalls the last couple of years, and that's helped bring it back. But it's like here, we need those like 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a row to really build up our watersheds. But
Yeah.
I will say one thing about Utah that's better than California. I mean, one thing, there's many, but they have figured out a way to store water there. They do a great job of doing that.
In aquifers, you mean?
And in reservoirs. I mean, they got reservoirs where people would think that they're actually lakes. They're reservoirs up in the mountains. So all over the place. They've done a really good job.
I think, didn't we do a story about one reservoir that wiped out a road and like a community up in the mountains? I thought we did a story on that.
California or Utah?
In Utah, up in the mountains.
Oh, could have. Yeah, we could have.
Or maybe it was a severe 100-year rain that just wiped out the houses and the roads and stuff.
I mentioned that. That's in Thistle, where they had that big mudslide. It flooded the town of Thistle. It backed up the river and flooded the town. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, you can see signs of that if you go up Highway 6 in between the Utah Valley and 89, when 89 takes off and goes south down into the Sanpete Valley. Yeah, there's a plaque there that commemorates that happened, and you can still see buildings underwater. It's crazy. So,
all right, folks, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you in the morning.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.